So the question is, what is the best way to start off root training for root over rock compositions? Please. So my name is Adam Jones of Treehouse Bonsai, and I will answer that question for you. So what is the best way to start off root training for root over rock compositions? Well, as you can see in front of me, we've got some older root over rock kaides as some examples. But how do you get here? That would be the question. How do you get this to come into existence? And ultimately the answer is you start with this. And maybe there's a few different ways of approaching this process, but the way that I go about doing it is such that if we have small naegi, some baby trees, right, saplings that we allow to grow until, as maybe you can see, or certainly I can feel, this is very root bound inside of this pot. So the process would be let the thing grow and get very root bound. And then when you have this, next time you go to repot, if we take this material and we rake out all of the soil out of the root systems, such that we have really long roots all intact without cutting any, then we can build them into something that looks like this. Now, whether that be PVC pipe like this, or you could use the black mesh for like the drainage holes, you can make a cylinder out of that and stuff this with the roots and planting material, substrate, sphagnum moss or whatever, such that the roots then have a chance to continue to grow and continue to be very, very long. And now this will become root bound down in here. And at a certain point, we can look that inside of that PVC pipe, this is what's going on inside of that PVC pipe. Some of these roots are becoming much larger, some of them are thinner, but all of them are, lignified to the point where they're okay to be exposed to the air. Like the soft roots are still in the soil base inside of this pot. So that's the next step, right? And that would be when we then attach the sapling onto a stone. That way we have enough length of root to go and like wrap it around the stone. And we can, when we attach this to the stone, maybe we would be using, you could use a lot of different things. Maybe you could use zip ties or wire or like black thread and wrap it around. The goal at this point that we're trying to accomplish here is that the base of the root, like the sheen, the core of the root, right underneath the root, is like sitting as snug against its position on the rock where we would like that to be as we can get. So we want to really cinch that down. And so again, whatever like cinching device you want to use, be that zip ties or wire or thread or whatever. And then we allow this to grow. And over time, maybe like 3 decades later, it turns into this, right? So the answer to the fundamental question of how do we start training roots for root over rock compositions, really the goal here is to let the thing grow and become root bound so that we have the long length of root to start training the roots for. That's the goal. We need to train the roots. So this into this, and then finally onto the rock. And if we are training something that is, let's say, you can imagine like a very large, tall rock that's, like omono, right? So maybe the stone itself is 50 centimeters tall and the tree then is like 75 centimeters, like a large root over rock bonsai. It's gonna start the same way. You're still gonna start with the same small, young material. You'll just put it onto a much larger stone. And when that's the case, then we can use sphagnum moss and like we would be dealing with those roots over that stone the same way we would be doing like a regular rock planting, so sphagnum moss and keto and things like that, to allow those roots to travel where we want them to travel. If you're dealing with, like in this situation, we can put that stone into the soil, but if you're talking about a stone that's 50 centimeters tall, you're not going to put that into a pot. That's ridiculous. So you could use regular materials that you would do any kind of rock composition for, and slowly organize and reorganize over years the roots so that you can have a large root over rock. But the fundamental process is the same, however you do it. And over time, over many number of years, you will get to a point where you have something that looks like this, where the roots that are running over the stone are thick and lovely and, finished as a root over rock style. And, bear in mind the whole time that you're dealing with the roots of a root over rock, you can also be pruning and styling and dealing with the branches as well. It's not an either or situation, it is a both situation. Try that again. What are suitable species to make root over rock plantings? Obviously, trident maples, Acer berger germaniums, if that's how you pronounce that word. Kaide in Japanese, right? The kaide have a very, very aggressive and fast-growing roots, and so they tend to do very well as root over rock plantings. You could do this with maples. You can do this, at the end of the day, really, you could do this with any tree that you want. You'll just have varying degrees of success. The faster and more aggressive the roots grow on the species, the better that this is going to work out. So let's call it traditionally, right, in Japanese bonsai, root over rock would be like true root over rock, not a rock planted tree, but true root over rock. Typically we see these with deciduous, and inside of the deciduous, most often we see these with kaide, iwashide, and momiji. So Acer berger germaniums, what is iwashide hornbeam? Can't remember off the top of my head what that's called in Latin. And Acer palmatum, momiji, right? Japanese maple. So yeah, so that's the quick answer to this question.